Good evening, Papua New Guinea, and welcome to Football First. Big news in the world of PNG football as Papua New Guinea crash out of the Olympic qualifiers over the weekend in their match against New Zealand. Tonight, however, we'll also be taking a look at Neil Hans, the NSL journeyman, as he talks about his career playing for both club and country. I'm joined tonight again by the ever-faithful Marco Venditti.
Jeremy, good evening, and unfortunately not a great night for PNG football, but this sort of things happen, and I think it's a question of rebuilding for where we left it a few months ago during the Pacific Games. Yeah.
Yes, of course. We are all by now aware that Papua New Guinea did crash out in a devastating 7-1 loss. What was your first reaction when you heard about the news?
Well, I was trying to understand what happened in the pitch, and by just looking at some of the footage, unfortunately I wasn't there to look at the game. It just looked like the body language of the girls was not the same body language that I've seen during the Pacific Games. They were fiery, they were really sort of clicked in right from the beginning, whereas they just seemed a little bit lost. They sort of, perhaps they thought that there was no way to win against this formidable team that is New Zealand. But I think in football you should never approach a game like that. Every game is a story of its own and you have to give the best. And I don't think the attitude was right from the beginning, I would say.
Well, considering the fact that you weren't there at the match and the majority of country as well, in fact, let's take a look at the highlights of the first leg of the Olympic qualifiers between Papua New Guinea and New Zealand. Devastating loss indeed, and I'm joined here on Football First by a long-time critic of football here in the country, and that is Joseph Ealadona. Now, obviously you also were very disappointed, just like Marco, over the performances of the national team. What can Papua New Guinea take out of this?
Yeah, well, firstly, as a football critic and a footballer, very embarrassing for Papua New Guinea. And now we are told that FIFA is opening up an investigation. And you know, this year is football year for PNG. We're hosting the Nations Cup, June, May. and the big one, FIFA.
Now, where in particular has this information come from FIFA itself?
The international media is quoting statements from FIFA, so I guess that's a confirmed statement from FIFA, and I've been told by some football authorities that that's confirmed. So for PNG, we see it as very embarrassing, and we've gone through these mistakes all these years. I can't understand what's happened and why we have gone through this. When the calendar for football is very clear, we know what dates we are playing, and we can strategize and plan for these dates.
Do you feel perhaps our women were overlooked?
This is my personal view. The under-20 coach, women's coach, came in from US just a day earlier, and I think she had an influence in preparation for a team just at that time. And I can feel if you're a coach of a team and somebody else come and put in some ideas and is telling you what to do, then obviously it will have some effect on how you play the team.
Joe, what does this mean especially considering the fact that FIFA are now looking at sanctions against PNG football?
If you abort a game for reasons like this, that's serious breach of football regulation. It just brings disrepute to football, and disrepute to football is a very serious matter.
Now, Marco, for yourself, there was an air of absolute disbelief once you found out all of these.
Yes, definitely. I mean, we call this show Football First, but in this case it was Football Last, I would say, because it feels like they put football at the last of their priorities. And as a foreigner, it's quite difficult for me to understand why. You understand the dynamics better than I do, and in fact it's impossible to understand it from my point of view. And obviously it will be interesting to find out what happened, as you rightly asked. Inevitably there is some incompetency somewhere, because somebody has to take the blame for that. It cannot be the players, even though they lost 7-1, but at the end of the day, this is a question of administration, and somebody should be behind the administration. But for me, what kind of annoys me is the fact that PNG has not preserved that sort of talent that we have seen during the Pacific Games. And I think that's something that this country has to look at vis-a-vis the future for just about everything. It's not only football. It's like when you're building something, maintenance is always a question in PNG. And it feels like the maintenance was also a problem for the football team. They won, again, the Pacific Games, not the first time, but all that talent was not preserved over these months. And that's a bit sad, in a way, to see.
Now, Marco, just cut you off. Now, Joseph, has this happened before? Has Papua New Guinea been placed in a situation where we have been sanctioned before?
As far as I can recall, no. That's as far as I can recall.
You obviously observed and were very passionate about Papua New Guinea during the Pacific Games.
True.
Did we deserve the mantle of Queens of the Pacific?
I thought so. I mean, during the Pacific Games, there was no question that this was the best team. In fact, we were discussing earlier on, it would have been interesting to see what would have happened if New Zealand played Papua New Guinea right in the aftermath of the Pacific Games. I'm sure it would have been a completely different game, because mentally they were much stronger. They really believed in their capacity as football players. And I don't think that PNG should make that mistake again. Once you get to that point, that should be just a starting point to reach higher. And as you said, football is changing nowadays. It's becoming increasingly competitive. It's scientific, the approach of teams like New Zealand, the way they approach a game. And I think that's what Papua New Guinea has to aspire to, reach that level. We're talking about teams that will come and play here. They're the top of the world, and those are really fantastic teams. And Papua New Guinea cannot approach that tournament with this sort of mentality.
The game that we just lost was a very important game for our senior women.
Joe, thank you for that. Now, just coming up after the break, we'll also be looking at, as Marco mentioned, the future of PNG football in terms of our under-17 women. And also, Joseph will remain with us as we take a look at round number 8 of the Telikom National Soccer League. Welcome back to Football First. Now, earlier in the program, we did take a look at the PNG senior women's team against New Zealand. But also coinciding with that event was our under-17 women's squad, who were able to reach the final of the under-17 championships in the Cook Islands. Regardless of that 8-0 loss to New Zealand, congratulations to the team for actually making it to the under-17 Oceania Championships. Now, just moving away from national performances, NSL this time, Marco. You've seen that. Where is the competition heading after 11 years now?
We're getting somewhere. We're changing format. Currently, we're reviewing the format of the competition because we're bringing the licensing format next year, I mean, coming season. We have a good board. Though people say many of them are not footballers, there's few of us footballers in there. The board is made up of various other people with different backgrounds, so we all come together and try and move football forward. So there's a big review going on. Hopefully we will give the review document to the PNGFA this year, and we'll see how we go in the next season. We're just looking at all the various formats we'll play, whether we go back to the national club championships and the winners coming through, or we follow this current format, conferences, or we introduce 4 conferences next year. So a lot of, or we go back to the old format. So we're just looking at all that, and we'll seek views from the various teams, and then we'll submit our report to PNGFA.
Now let's just take a look at some of the highlights from round number 8 in the Telikom National Soccer League. Marco, you've seen Hekari play, especially down here in the south. What did you make of how they play compared to the other teams?
Well, I was quite impressed by the level of football, I must say. But I did also notice that they're a little bit ahead of everybody else, and tactically as well as technically. So I was just wondering if in a way the two conferences are a little bit unbalanced overall. It seems to be a team definitely dominating the Southern Conference. I'm not sure. I haven't seen anybody playing from the Northern Conference, so I would like to see if it's more of a balanced and equal tournament. But probably in the South, this is what is happening, which is not good for football, because at the end of the day, what you want to see is it's an equal type of tournament where you have several teams competing for that spot, because it's going to elevate the standard, I think, of the game. So I'm looking forward to see also the way they play on the other side of Papua New Guinea. Yeah.
Is the concept of the Northern and Southern Conference, do you feel it's working?
We've seen a rise in the standard of football, which is good for PNG, but still Hekari is playing that quality structured football. I've been in NSL for quite a while now, and Hekari continues to play that consistent football. And by now, all of us know how they play, but it's just how we tackle them in the game is
it's a different story.
Yeah, they're fit, they're structured, they play good football, and they want to win. I always tell everybody who brings a team in NSL is about winning. NSL is about going to O-League, and going to O-League is about going to FIFA World Club. That's all.
I was wondering, Joseph, how much these teams also nurture sort of the youth between their ranks as well, because at the end of the day, football is always about the future, the new generations. And if we look at the most successful teams worldwide, Barcelona, Ajax, or other important teams, they're being really successful when they've been nurturing their players from really early age, or getting into the mentality that you're talking about winning and being professional and so on. I think that aspect is still, for me, is still lacking when I look at PNG football. Is this something that even at the football national level is something that it's sort of you're looking at it? I mean, teams are probably looking at that for the future.
Yeah, for NSL, that's why the licensing system is coming in. We try to bring that into the franchise teams, that we need to build a youth base. So they are linked to one club and we build them up that way. Hikari did that. I'm not sure if they're still doing that. They have their youth base, their school training, kids training, it was good. And then they pick up the best all the way up. For PNG football, they're using the academy as the youth development, and from there the youth are taken up by the various franchise clubs to go out. So that's where we are. But yeah, you're correct. A franchise team bring the youth up. So we are looking at all those options. How do we link a franchise team to the associations? And you build up the youth from under 20 all the way up to the franchise team. So those are the many options we're looking at.
Very good.
Well, Joseph, as you mentioned, it is at the end of the day all about winning, and I hope in the future that Papua New Guinea can get there. Thank you very much for your time this evening.
Thank you, and it's a pleasure.
And I hope to see a lot more of your face here in Football First as we preview the OFC Nations Cup later on this year. We'll take a quick break right. Welcome back to Football First. Well, he's been described as a powerhouse and has that unmistakable left foot, and that is PNG and FC Port Moresby midfield/striker Neil Hans.
My name is Neil Hans. I'm from Madang, Eastern Islands, and Morobe, and I play for Football Club Port Moresby.
For Neil Hans, it has been a long and arduous journey. The NSL journeyman has been a stalwart in the Telikom National Soccer League since its inception, and has seen and experienced the highs and lows of the country's biggest football tournament. Leaving his beloved Madang town to come to the big city has brought with it its own challenges, many of which have taken a toll on him and can be seen etched on his face.
It was a nice experience going back home with the Port Moresby club. Yeah. But we did our best, but we just came short on the day. Lay with the better side that day, but it was good going back home, playing there. All the people there, they love watching me play there, and yeah, it was a good experience going back.
Family has been an important part of his life.
My family, soccer playing family, we love the sports. My dad played, all my uncles, aunties, they played soccer. He's a tough guy, He likes things to be done as, according to, he's a coach. So being what will I say? Being a player as far as your coach, it's hard. It's hard. The expectations are there, and your father, he knows and he sees what, he thinks. He knows what you can do, and he believes in you. So he'll be talking to you and encouraging you, trying to help you to be the best you can.
And he understands the responsibilities he has to his own, added on to that of his club and his country.
Yeah, I miss Madang, I miss my family. I'm married now, I miss my wife, my son, my parents. Yeah, I miss my family, but they they accept the fact that I'm here doing what I love doing, playing, and they're very supportive, and I'm thankful at that.
Currently with FC Port Moresby, Neil feels he's at the peak of his career, and feels also that he still has much more to offer to the squad's younger chargers.
In training, in game time, yeah, you'll discover things that you thought you couldn't do, but yeah, as you play and train and everything, yeah, you learn new things and about yourself. Yeah.
In May, Papua New Guinea will play host to the rest of the Pacific Island countries in the OFC Nations Cup.
It's going to be great, like playing here in a big tournament, I think for the first time, first time in years, a big tournament coming here for the senior squad to be playing at home in front of the crowd. It's going to be a big challenge for us. I'm confident we'll do well, yeah.
For Neil Hans, however, the opportunity for glory for his country remains close to his heart.
You know, when you think about it before a game, but when you score, like everything just sort of like you get lost in the emotions and everything, and like you'll plan to celebrate the goal, but then when you score and the teammates are jumping all over you, and like, you don't have the time to celebrate it. Like you want to celebrate, but they're giving high fives and hugging you and jumping on top of you. But I did one back in 2000. It was our first season. We played best up in the year. Alex Davani, he promised to buy me an S4. Yeah. And he said, if you score 10 goals, I'll buy you an S4. So I think I scored 2 goals there, and I ran to the sideline. He came back, he was on the sideline. Yeah, I scored the 10th goal. The second goal was the 10th. Yeah, so I ran to the sideline. I had my hand like this. And, I think it took him 2 weeks to get me that ball. After all, it's you who's going to benefit, you're going to let yourself down, you know. After all, it's going to be you. So take your chances, but always follow your heart. Yeah.
Neil Hans, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Jeremy.
And we wish Neil Hans all the best throughout the remaining matches this season. Marco, after the break, my favorite team in the whole wide world, Manchester United and Louis van Gaal, under fire from the fans.
I didn't know that was your best team, your favorite team. You never told me that. That's interesting. All right, we'll talk about it.
Welcome back to Football First. Now, Manchester United manager Louis van Gaal may be terminated from his role at the head of the former English champions after a loss to Southampton over the weekend. Now, the Dutchman has admitted that United fans had every right to be upset after a poor December run.
I don't know, but it was a poor performance, of course, because football is not only defending but also creating chances, and we didn't create any chance. Our opponent neither, I think. So it was a poor game for the fans. I can imagine that.
Marco, manager of Louis van Gaal's caliber, and when he has the club supporters already up in arms over the performances of perhaps one of the best English teams in the history of the FA.
Yep.
Well, personally, how does that reflect on his previous performances with all the other clubs that he's been with?
Well, I would like to say that probably he has one of the toughest jobs in the planet. I mean, how are you going to replace Ferguson with everything that this guy has won for MU? So, I mean, that is really, to start with, is a really tough position to take by any standard. I don't think I would have taken that job offer, because inevitably there's going to be several years before you can build again such a powerhouse. In any case, I have confidence in him. I mean, I saw him training different teams, and he's a very charismatic man. He does know about football a lot. I think it's just a question of time. If he managed to stay in the saddle for a few more games, I'm pretty sure he's going to come back up, because he's got a powerful team. He is a really excellent manager, very, very smart, and I have trust in him. But again, it's a tough job.
Just moving on, coming back to the local competitions, here's a look at the NSL round 9 coming up matches, and there'll be a lot of interesting fixtures, especially considering we have only 2 more games until the finals. Let's take a look at which teams are coming up. First match in the Southern Conference will see PK Rapatona FC take on Huawei PS United at 12:30, and at 3 p.m. it is Gigara Laitepo United versus Erema Golf. On Sunday, the big one between FC Port Moresby versus Hekari, while over at the Sir Ignatius Kilaga Stadium in Ley, we'll see Besta PNG United take on Ley City Dwellers. Coinciding with that match, Madang FC will take on Wellgris Morabe United at the Laiwarin in Madang, while the final match to be held in Goroka will see Gosiha take on Admiralty at the National Sports Institute. And big matches coming up over the weekend. Marco, again I have to say this, it's been splashed out all over the newspapers for the past couple of days. Was it unfortunate?
I don't think so. I mean, I don't think there is a lot of lack of fortunate or unfortunate things in sport nowadays. It's all about planning. It's all about thinking forward. It's all about building the teams. There is no room for chances anymore. And I think that's what PNG should really look at for the future. But at the end of the day, something can be learned from a crushing defeat. That is always the case for any sport. And the question will be, will this team be able to pick up the ashes and put together a competitive, strong team for the future? Okay, the Olympic Games are gone, let's face it, but you have something even more important than that, and it's FIFA World Cup Under-20 being played in Papua New Guinea. So what can the administration, the management learn from what happened? What can the team learn? And I think you can learn a lot, and you can actually use it to your own advantage. And that will be the job of the coaches as well, and the job of preserving those young girls. And I've seen a lot of talent, and I wouldn't want to see that being wasted.
Marco, again, thank you very much for your time.
It's my pleasure. I don't think you can thank me anymore because...
I'm actually tired of thanking you. We'll have those cupcakes in a couple of weeks' time.
Absolutely.
Stay safe and good night, Papua New Guinea.